Welcome to HomeWord. I'm Jim Burns. So happy that you joined us today. You know, people from all around the world join us, and we are so amazed that you would take the time and the energy, but also incredibly, incredibly honored that you're listening. Today, you are not going to be disappointed if you have any idea that you want to have a better marriage or you want to have a more effective marriage, because I have Doug Fields with us again, and he is in the house for the second time, and just in the last few months. And anyway, he's my good friend. He's the person that I said in a previous podcast that honestly, when I am with him in his presence, I feel like I'm a better person. And today we're going to talk about improving, refreshing, creating a healthy marriage, and honestly, he's one of my favorite people for a podcast, but also just in the universe. His wife's name is C.A.K.E, and he married way above himself, and she's phenomenal. And they have a phenomenal book and a course called A Better Us. So you get the book, but then on the back of the book, it also has some great videos, short videos, very to the point, incredible communication. Doug is the father of 3 amazing adult children and 3 amazing spouses to those adult children, and he has 9 grandkids. I have 4, so I'm a little jealous because I am all about grandkids right now. No doubt in my mind, he's one of the most influential of this generation for decades in youth ministry, but also today he's now influencing the world with marriage. Great content that we're going to talk about today, great content in that book that we're talking about. He has other books on marriage. And actually, what he does is once a month, he has something called Marriage Matters at Mariners Church in Irvine, California. And well over 1,000 people every time come to that. And it's just great, fresh content. These people love it. I live in the area. I talk to the people who hear what he's talking on, and they just go, we would not want to miss this. It is so good. And again, the book is called A Better Us by Doug and C.A.K.E Fields, which makes it even more effective. Mm-hmm. He's also the co-founder, president of Download Youth Ministry. If you have any kind of a youth ministry background, you, I'm sure, know about it, but you might want to check that out again. And a team member here at HomeWord. Doug, welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Jim. It's good to be with you, as always.
So today we're going to talk about a good marriage is a cake walk. I'm not sure everybody understands what a cake walk was. When I was in school, we did these kind of weird cake walks. I think they were fundraisers or something, but you use an acronym, C.A.K.E, C.A.K.E. And in doing that, it's on how to improve your marriage relationship. And you ask a great question in this. When was the last time you learned something new about your spouse? I really had to think about that. When you asked that, why did you do that?
Well, I think the premise behind this whole cake idea, which we'll unpack as we go, but the premise is that I think people think that they don't have to be as interested in the evolution of their spouse because they're married.
Yeah.
You know, like I know everything about Kathy. Like, you know, I think the longer we're married, the more assumptions we make.
Yeah, that's true.
That we know our wife or our husband, we know their feelings, we know their thoughts. And, you know, being married for over 40 years, what I've realized is that those assumptions are wrong, because Kathy over 40 years has changed her thinking on things. She's changed her philosophies on things. She's changed feelings about things, as have I. I'm not the same person that she married when I was 22 years old. And so kind of the premise is really kind of poking at marriages and saying, are you existing, or are you intentionally trying to go deeper? And so, you know, the CAKE idea is an acronym. The C is for about curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, when was the last time you asked about new dreams, new thoughts, new theology, like where you're thinking about things different than you did when you grew up in Sunday school? Right. Like, what are the questions that you are asking to show that, oh, I really care about the new you, the 2026 you, rather than living under the assumption that I know my spouse.
No, that's so key. You're right. And you actually asked your dearly beloved wife about hugging, and she gave you an answer that you didn't really think was probably the good answer.
This is not a success story, but it actually led to something. So it was our 1-year anniversary, 1986. And I said to her, I want to be a good husband. Is there anything that you feel like I'm not good at? And she paused, and you could tell she was calculating how to say it. And she said, "You're not a very good hugger." And I thought to myself, "You're out of your mind. I'm a great hugger." I didn't say that. I was like looking at her like, "What?" And she could see my mind spinning. She stops me. She says, "Well, you're a good hugger when you want it to lead to something." She said, "I would like some affection without intention." And I thought, oh, okay. And so, but it was this total wake-up call,
Right.
to just go like, oh, I'm not very good at this.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. We've lived together for a year, and I didn't know that that's what she had thought. Yeah. And she didn't say it because I had never asked it so open-ended. But it did teach me early on that I need to ask more questions,
Right.
related to how she's feeling, how am I doing, what is she thinking about us now, and not just about us, but anything about life, about what is bringing her joy this year that hasn't brought her joy.
Yeah. No,
I think sometimes guys, we go like, "What are you thinking? You're quiet. What are you thinking?" Well, they're not, they're feeling. Right. So sometimes we're asking the wrong questions. But I want to poke at marriages and say, if you are not an investigator, you're probably not the healthiest or the best spouse that you could be. Right. Just turn that dial of asking questions and be more curious. Not just how was your day, because anybody can do that, but thinking a little deeper beyond that. What made you happy about that?
Yeah. No, it's really, really good. It was great for me because I actually had an experience like that with Kathy just recently. We were talking about a reunion, a high school reunion. That's a long time ago for us. And she said, "Well, all of my, people have died." Her friends died early. It's kind of a weird deal. And I said, "Well, how does that make you feel?" And I wasn't looking for a deep conversation or whatever. She started to kind of tear up, and she said, "You have no idea. I mean, you have your high school friends that you still see sometimes, or at least the ones that you want to see." She goes, "And I don't. They're gone." And it was really interesting because it drew us closer together also. I didn't know that she felt that deep about it. One of her friends I knew, but these others that she still felt like that. It was crazy. So
that's a perfect illustration of what being, you kind of stumbled into that.
Yeah.
In some ways.
I didn't do it good. The word is stumble. But at least if we know we need to be curious.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Good to do.
I mean, think about it. Anybody listening, you could stop this podcast right now and just go, "I need to be more curious about my spouse."
No, exactly.
And you're going to win.
Yeah, no, exactly. And in a moment, we're going to kind of, if you would, cut the cake and kind of work through that. But I want to ask another question because I think it's so interesting. And you've brought this up several times when I've heard you speak. So interesting that research shows that couples who practice positivity to one another really have a much greater chance of a successful marriage. And a lot of couples do. They aren't curious, or they don't come into curiosity, but they also aren't very positive. They just kind of get comfortable in their sometimes even negativity, or well, you always act like that, or you always talk like that. But what you say, that research says, is no, the people who are the most positive about each other are really the people who have the more successful marriage.
Yeah, where they actually think higher about their spouse than their spouse thinks of themselves. Yeah, wow. That's kind of the issue. Yeah. So, I think Kathy is more whatever. I put her at a 9 at that. Yeah. She would give herself a 7. Yeah. And those marriages where the spouse thinks more highly about the person in whatever area you're talking about, right? Statistically, kind of the empirical relational science behind that says those are the marriages that are healthiest. Yeah. So it's being positive. Jim, I think, I feel like if I had to just do one marriage message, it would be quit being so critical. Yeah. I think criticism kills marriages. Yes. It makes people turn into, negative, and when they're seeing everything half empty. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could write a book that people would buy and read, but they wouldn't. It would just be, quit being so critical. Yeah. Because nobody would read that book because it's a negative title. But really, I think that would be the answer to so many issues in marriage. Right.
In some of my marriage work, and I have a talk that I call positive adaptability, which I just love giving that talk. I haven't given it for a long, long time. You've heard the talk, I'm sure. But in that, what I realize is that some people are kind of awfulizers. I mean, we're never going to be in a good relationship. Our kids are never going to do well, never. All awfulizing. People who awfulize toward their marriage don't, so says John Gottman and some of the researchers, they don't stay married, or they stay in really poor marriages.
Right. Which is, it's sad because it's a part of their life script that maybe started way before they were married, and they don't even see themselves. They're blinded to their own negativity. And you could talk on this, this as a communicator. You could give a talk on being positive, not being negative, and a couple will come up to you afterwards and they'll rip on their spouse and just laugh. And it's such a part of who they are that they can't even see themselves in that light.
Yeah. I'm spending more and more time talking to people about resetting their mindset. And that's not on just marriage, but it's on resetting your mindset for adult children, resetting your mindset for, what you want to do with your life and whatnot. But really what I hear you saying is, if you tend to go negative, there's reasons. Maybe it's how you grew up and whatnot, but you've got to reset your mind. And, again, the Bible is very clear. Renew your mind. Your mind is so key in so many levels. So we got to do a reset.
And if people of faith, they should be the most positive people in the world anyway. Because if anyone is in Christ, they're a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Like we are living this new life. We're empowered with the Holy Spirit. Like we have all the reason in the world to be positive.
Right. No, you're right. And yet we tend to, sometimes we're just lazy with our thoughts, how we deal with thoughts.
Well, it doesn't this is going to sound harsh. It doesn't take intelligence to be critical.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's so easy to be critical. Anybody can be critical.
Right.
It takes intelligence. It takes thoughtfulness. It takes a little reflection to be positive.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's get to cutting this cake. You have the acronym. C, as you said, stands for curiosity. And you said something that I thought was really interesting, and you kind of referred to this, but I want you to unpack it. The longer you've been together, the more you know. The longer you've been together, the more you assume.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we assume, or we expect them to be mind readers, and so unpack curiosity a little bit more.
It could be like we had a conversation at our, I remember having a conversation in the 80s, and I got an answer from Kathy about that, and then I fast forward that to 2026, and I still assume that she feels the same way, and that's not an intelligent assumption.
Right.
So I just feel like the longer people have been married, the more they assume they know their spouse.
Yeah.
And talk about a new mindset. What I would want people to listen to this and go, okay, here's my new mindset. I'm going to be more curious.
Yeah.
I'm going to be more curious.
And there really is a scripture that I read in one of your messages, Philippians 2:4, that says, don't look out for all your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So take an interest in your spouse.
Yeah. My kids grew up in a house where, we taught them people skills from a very early age. And one of the people skills that we taught them is you make other people heroes of their own story. So you ask questions about them. Right. And, we just took it for granted that that's what everybody does. And so all of my kids would come back from college, and I remember Tori, my oldest, went on a date, and she's like, I asked all the questions. He didn't ask me one question. And now they literally interact with people, and that's how they evaluate meeting a new friend in the neighborhood. Right. Like, did this person ask any questions?
Sure.
And the ones that do, and I emphasize the one because it's very few. The one or two that really do, they have become good friends with. And when I see them at, a grandkid's birthday party, or I meet their friends, I can tell right away, like, oh, I see why you like her.
No, and that is so true. And it's true about your kids, your own kids. Remember when Cody, your son, was like 13, I was speaking at your church. You were at Saddleback Church, and I was preaching, and we went out to dinner, and he's asking me questions. I'm going, this kid is 13.
Yeah.
How did he do that? I remember saying to you, how did, and sometimes we have to train, but we have to train up ourselves to ask those questions too, be those people. That's a great trait. Well, let's continue with the cake, and then we'll take a break. But C is curiosity. A is ask questions. So it's the same thing we've done.
Yeah. So curiosity is kind of the big picture. Yeah. And then the A and the K and the E are kind of the action points underneath.
Exactly.
So ask questions. don't just say, how was your day?
Yeah.
Ask questions like the one that you stumbled into, how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel is a good thing.
Right. Absolutely.
So you're saying you don't just go, hey, so how much do you weigh? Why is dinner late?
Those are questions. You're right. You're right. They're just not going to lead to connection or, any harmony in the relationship. Right. So yeah, it's just asking questions. And the reality is you could be thinking of a question while you're driving. Yeah. And just talk it into your Siri or put it in your notes and save it for another time. Or even thinking like, oh, I was running out of the house. I should have asked her X, Y, and Z, and then follow up. And I've said that with Kathy is like, hey, I want to circle back to that. I thought a little bit later, and that is actually my wife finds that kind of sexy. Yeah, that I can't believe that we're having this conversation or that you thought about it, because what do we want? We want people to think about us. I want Kathy to miss me today. I want her to think about me today, and she wants the same for me. So, if you fail at asking the right questions right away, but you think of one later, bring it back out. Right. No, that is super good. Listen, we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be right back. Doug Fields is my guest today. And if I could choose anyone to be on this podcast, it would be Mr. Fields. I love and respect and admire this man so much. He and Kathy Fields have written a great book. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, then you see the book. It's a beautiful cover, by the way. It's called A Better Us, 4 Keys to Enhance a One-Heart Marriage. And then when you open up to the back cover, then you get to use a QR code and you have videos. It's a great way of getting, you want to be mentored by Doug and Kathy Fields, you can be. Pick up this book, and all the information's in our podcast notes. You can also go to dougfields.com or homeword.com, and we have that here. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're going to talk about digging, what that has to do with your marriage. Parenting doesn't stop when your child turns 18. If anything, it gets harder and more complicated. When the relationship breaks down, when they walk away from the faith you raised them in, and every conversation feels like a fight, you need more than advice. You need hope. When Your Adult Child Strays, Trading Heartache for Hope is the book I wish every parent had. Find it anywhere books are sold. Welcome back. I'm Jim Burns. We're talking with Doug Fields today. We're talking about, how to refresh your marriage. And we're going to tell you about a Refreshing Your Marriage conference later. Doug, you tell couples to keep digging. That's the K in cake. Keep digging. Just like roots. So you keep digging, you keep talking about feelings. What do you mean by digging? Well, I don't think the first answer is always going to be the best answer or the truest to who your spouse is. Right. So the keep digging is what we were laughing that you stumbled into is, how did that make you feel? That's keep digging. Yeah. Tell me more. I'd like to hear how you came up with that. So whatever, it's not the first question. The second question is usually the most difficult, but that's where you hit gold. Yeah. Usually is that, tell me more about that. I'd like to know your thinking behind that, and how did that make you feel? Anything where you just kind of keep digging. Don't just go, oh, okay. And then what are we having for dinner? Yeah. It's listening, which actually leads to, can I go to the E, or am I hijacking your expertise?
Honestly, my next question was going to be about effective listening, and so go, if that's your E, do it.
My E is, I think, express empathy.
Let me. I want to bring up let me interrupt.
Okay.
We're going to get to express empathy because I think that's key and critical. But you have something that you talk about with effective listening. Most of us aren't good listeners. Listening is the language of love, but like you just said, we might even say, "Oh, I've been listening to the podcast today. I'm going to ask a question, and then the next question is going to be, okay, are we done now? Let's do this."
Right.
I can do that. That can be something that I can do in a negative way with Kathy if I'm not careful. So help us become better listeners.
Well, I mean, listening is not having an agenda. Mm-hmm. Listening is, I'm going to listen what's the emotion behind the answer.
It's really good.
I'm going to look at your eyes. I mean, I'm going to know for Kathy's eyes. I'm going to know her, I know when she gets serious, her lips change in terms of like it becomes a little stiffer. Like I've learned body language over 41 years. So like it's easy for me to say.
You're not just listening to words, you're listening to body language. You're
Well, I mean, we become experts at listening to tone, right? Because usually, as we talked about, so much tone is negative. But yeah, you're listening to tone, you're listening to body language, you're listening to pauses. But when I communicate, I'm all in. I even take here in this very comfortable office, trapped behind this microphone at this nicely, is this Costco?
No, we had the podcast table made.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, it's
so
nice.
Be impressed.
I am impressed. There's a lot of gadgets around here. But, my body language is more kind of kick back and casual right now. But there'll be times where, when I'm listening, I'll even lean in, I'll change my body language and, not like
maybe even put your hand on.
Not even invader space, but just kind of, like lean in like I'm now I'm kind of partly because of my hearing, but I move my eyes from her eyes to her lips. Like I want to catch words. And so it's you mentioned earlier that communication is a learned behavior. I mean, this is all stuff. I don't care how many years you've been married, you can go like, oh, I haven't been curious in the last 20 years. Great. You can start today.
Start now.
I haven't been a great listener. Great. Well, start today. Ask that additional 2 or 3 questions before you change the subject. Listen for what's beneath the surface answer that he or she gives you. Change your body language. Lean in, look more at their eyes, whatever it is. Smile. So I think that's a little bit of listening.
No, and you know what? And again, we were talking in another podcast about mentoring, and in some ways, these are the kinds of things. This is what happens in mentoring. We can watch people,
right?
But sometimes we just need to hear that. And I want to get to.
Can I interrupt you just because I think there's an element of listening. Like I think of like a image I have of my dad looking at the mail while he's listening to my mom, or listening but looking at the Sports Center score, and like there are just some signs that you're kind of a knucklehead. No. That those are them.
No, and those are good signs, and that just hurt a lot of people because we do that. But we have to be careful not to do that.
I mean, that's why people are listening to a podcast on marriage, because they want, that's why I always say to people, like, you don't need to feel guilty if you're not doing something, because the people that should feel guilty are the ones that aren't here learning how to improve their marriage.
No, exactly.
Anybody listening should feel like, oh, this is great. I came for a little nugget, and here's my nugget. I'm going to be curious.
No, exactly. So I want to get to the E.
Okay.
Because I'm curious. Express understanding. And I think this is a biggie. And again, when I hear that, express understanding, I'll give you a Kathy and Jim failure. One of her constant concerns with me is that I'm a fix-it guy.
Yeah.
So I want to be a good listener, but once I understand, I want to give her the answer to her dilemma. And sometimes she just wants me to listen. So to express understanding, sometimes I'll say, I understand. She's only halfway telling me what the problem is.
Yeah.
And I'm already there. And she goes, you know what? I haven't even finished what my concern is. And I'm not even sure I want your answer. I might just want a hug.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you need a lot of work.
I need work. I need help. 51 years of marriage.
Well, I mean, you are a fixer. Your personality type, Enneagram 3, you're a doer, you're a driver. You want to, like, let's go. Let's get on to the next thing. And I get that. I'm there as well. But yeah, people don't want to be fixed. They want to be heard. Yeah. Right? And so express understanding is really another way of saying empathy. It's step into the puddle with me. Don't just pull me out of the puddle. Right. Like step into the puddle with me, feel it. And there are times, is this something you want me to, want me to help you fix this? You want me just to listen to it? Like, I don't think that's a bad statement to say.
No, that's a good question.
And that might be a default, like, I'm in the puddle with you. Yeah. You want me just to be in the puddle with you?
Right.
Or you want me to help you find a way out?
Yeah. It's interesting that you use the word empathy, because we probably don't show enough empathy to our spouses. and empathy means that we are trying to understand how they feel and what they do.
Yeah, we enter into their pain or their hurt.
I have a book out now called When Your Adult Child Strays, Trading Heartache for Hope. And guess what I talk about with estrangement? So the kids don't even want a relationship with the parents. And I say, parents, you take the lead and show any kind of empathy you possibly can. You're going to be in disagreement with probably most of the stuff. They violated values. They strayed from your faith. But what you've got to do is show them empathy, that you understand something of their dilemma. And what's crazy is that researchers say that brings the kids back when you actually say, I can understand how you feel. And even if you don't agree, you can still say, I understand how you feel. So if that's the case with an estranged adult child, think about with our spouse. It's just, it's key. We've got to, place that. I got one last question. And I love this. I don't know if you said this or if this is a quote, but I love this.
Depends how good it is at knowledge.
Well, it doesn't have a name, by it. So maybe it's yours. The secret to a happy marriage is this: keep showing up for each other, keep listening, keep asking questions, keep wondering, and keep being amazed. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that summarizes what we've been talking about.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take credit for that, because that's kind of a talk.
It
recap.
Sounds like
it's
you.
A recap.
Yeah,
really,
it sounds like you.
Yeah. I mean, we married our spouse because they were amazing, and somewhere along the way we've taken that amazement and we've shelved it.
Yeah.
And I think I want Kathy to feel like I'm amazed by her, and so I will make comments like, you're an amazing mom, you're an amazing grandparent, like right. You're an amazing friend. I mean, who doesn't want to hear that?
Yeah.
I mean, you got me when you did the introduction, how nice it was. I'm like, okay, so I have to buy lunch today, because that was amazing.
You bought lunch in 1991 was the last time you bought lunch.
Well, see, I don't carry money.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. One time I think you were going to take me out, and then you go, oh, by the way, I don't have a wallet. And I know we're talking about lunch because I know you want, this is going to be a shorter podcast because you're hungry.
Exactly.
You've been whining about it.
No,
right.
I'm wondering if the listeners can actually hear my stomach growling.
But again, I think it's a great lesson for us to do. C.A.K.E, because that's a really cool acronym, and it's great insight. Basically, what it's saying is we have to, our spouse needs to know we want to, grow deeper with them, and we want to listen to them, and we want to be amazed by them, and we need to tell them that, because we probably are. There's also things that bug us, and maybe we have to develop more of a positivity. So good today. Thank you.
Absolutely. I hope if somebody listens to this and walks away and goes, okay, I can be more curious.
They will, and they do.
That's a win.
That's what's amazing. Hey, by the way, friends, don't forget to check out our podcast notes. And the book I'm thinking about today is a book that Doug and Kathy wrote called A Better Us, 4 Keys to Enhance a One Heart Marriage. And this stuff is good stuff. I know his content. And at the back, then you can actually see them via digital, and they're given great insight and great input, or at least Kathy is, and Doug does okay too. Hey, by the way, before we go, I want to tell you, Doug and I do this at our conferences, but we'll say read one marriage book a year, read one parenting book a year. By the way, that might be the book and the course that you could do. It'd be so good. But we also think that you should go to one conference a year, one class that's taking place at church, whatever it might be. We're not saying what it is. We're just saying, go, because you always learn something different. You learn something different on this podcast, and that's why you invest in podcasts. And I respect you so much for doing that. HomeWord has our next Refreshing Your Marriage conference. Doug speaking, I'm speaking, and a wonderful woman who we both have known for a long, long time named Megan Hutchinson. And it's in San Diego, California. All of the information is at refreshingyourmarriage.com. I checked today to make sure it was up, and it is. You can come. Some of you could come from afar. We've had people come from afar and kind of make it, come and hear our experience with Refreshing Your Marriage. It's great. It's life-changing. But at the same time, stay for San Diego. October is actually my favorite month to be in San Diego. I love San Diego. We're not too far. Doug and I are in our studio in Dana Point. It's not too far from San Diego, and it's just a great place, great weather. But anyway, if you're local, then we would encourage you to come out to the Refreshing Your Marriage Conference. It's going to be a great one. Again, San Diego, California on October 9th and 10th. RefreshingYourMarriage.com has all the info. Until next time, I'm Jim Burns.